What's poppin', y'all? 6ix9ine has officially sold 56,000 overall, with 21,930 coming from streaming equivalent albums and 33,600 coming from pure album sales. Big Sean sold 111,000 first week with 33,900 pure album sales. Not sure if they counted his merchandise bundles, and 75,000 coming from streaming. I tweeted the other day in response to Big Sean's predictions, and you should follow me on Twitter at @TheMindOfHY for more insights and updates. If you're actually watching this week's sales from an unbiased perspective, there's a lot to learn. Some people thought I meant just the sales figures, which is one aspect, but it was really more so about the behavior of people and how they pick and choose the approach they take on identical situations, depending on whether they like the person or not. The initial projections for 6ix9ine's album Tattletales were 150K. Then Billboard decided to really change and implement the rules early, or maybe not early, but just against him. They decided not to count his bundles, which brought him down to 50K. And then another update said he was going to sell 35 to 45K. And then another update saying 65K. Which, let's keep it a buck, with how hard they're blackballing him, it's not that crazy of a flop. I still think it's not good because, I don't know, I would expect something around 80K after it's all said and done. But if he was selling 40K or 35, then that's a whole nother story. One of the things about his album, not even sales-wise, was how straight up garbage it was. The album was absolute trash, and to be fair, while the Punani version with Tory Lanez was absolute fire, that did not end up materializing. And the good songs on this album, for the most part, were already released as singles prior. So there's really not many new songs on here that I'm like, damn, yo, this is hard. Except for the track with the Jamaican artist, Left Side. We're going to address things musically first because it's usually the least important part of the sales of an album. I think 6ix9ine got used to having features on his songs because Dummy Boy, which was fire, was full of features. There was only one song on there that was solo, and that was Wando, but to be fair, Tati was basically solo since DJ Spin King didn't really do anything over it. But on Day 6ix9ine, Graduation, which was 6ix9ine's first project, a large majority of it was solo, and a lot of his early hits were solo. Songs like Gummo, Billy, Gotti, and Kuda are all songs that people loved, even if they hated him at the time. And they were solo songs, so I'm just confused as to why 6ix9ine didn't remake Aguba 5 more times in different songs. And I think people would have thought this album was a lot better because it's one thing to be screwed in the industry commercially, but for the music to also be objectively ass, it's not helping your case. At this point, I don't know why 6ix9ine doesn't get a writer or something of the sort, and I'll absolutely be shocked to know that someone actually writes some of his stuff. There's no way, because I've heard him recycle the Ray Charles "I Can't See Her" line more than I've heard Meek Mill say "rolling on my wrist" or Nicki Minaj say "these hoes are my sons." It's a catchphrase by now. Now that the musical aspect is taken care of, how exactly was he blackballed? The first example, of course, is them removing his bundles. The second is him not being on any playlists at all, 0 radio play, not allowed to be interviewed for any mainstream rap media outlets, and last of all, not even in the new releases section. The whole bundles thing I really want to cover here because, like I said, people's behavior has been really interesting to watch when it comes to this. I was the first one to really cover this merchandise bundle thing being used to overinflate sales over 2 years ago now, with the most blatant abuse of it being Travis Scott's Astroworld. And if you just go to that video, that'll be linked in the description and the top right cards, and just read the comments. You'll see nothing but people calling me a hater in it. I continued pointing it out with other examples like Nav, NF, Chance the Rapper, Tyler the Creator, and pretty much anyone else who got the majority of sales from bundles. And time after time, I would get called a hater, and people had no problem with bundles, seemingly. I personally didn't really have an issue with it either. People just assumed that I did. I really thought it was brilliant to offer an incentive to buy an actual album, because unless you're a K-pop group, it's highly unlikely your fans will straight up buy your album without anything special attached to it. However, when 6ix9ine and Nicki Minaj decided to join in the fun and bundle their single for Trolls that went number one, which was a historic moment in music for a song that had no radio play at all, and I'm pretty sure almost no playlisting if any. People decided to finally criticize the use of merchandise bundling. And this made it clear that people had no issue with bundling itself. They had an issue with an artist or artists that they didn't like using bundles for success. The majority of rap fans didn't have an issue with it, really, until pop stars like Ariana Grande, Justin Bieber, and others began doing the same thing and beating their favorite rappers on the charts. It's not the act that people dislike, it's the person, which is just one example of hypocrisy surrounding this 6ix9ine album release. Big Sean's Detroit 2 is also being pushed with merchandise bundles, and I'm not exactly sure if they counted them towards his first week album sales, but I'm pretty sure they wouldn't be that blatant and count his and not 6ix9ine's, but I've been surprised before. Next, we have to get into the streaming platforms and their blackballing of 6ix9ine. I don't know what 6ix9ine is talking about when he says that his album didn't show up in newest albums on Spotify, because it showed up for me there. But he is 100% right that it does not show up in latest releases for Apple Music. Keep in mind, this is not some editorial playlist. This isn't some radio station. This is literally just the newest albums of that week by artists who have even a drop of clout. And 6ix9ine not being on there is really absurd. Moving on to other places on Apple Music, Big Sean is on the cover of the Rap Life playlist. His song Lithuania with Travis Scott is the first song on that playlist, and he has at least 3 other songs from his album on that playlist too. When you go to the iTunes Store tab, they have a huge banner for Big Sean's Detroit 2. But if you scroll through that, they never had 6ix9ine's album on there the entire week, even though the first 2 days he had the number 1 best-selling album on the iTunes charts. Now we gotta migrate to Spotify because they actually give us some numbers to work with, unlike Apple. If you go to Browse, Genres, and Hip Hop, you see Rap Caviar, which is the biggest rap playlist on that platform with over 13 million followers, and Big Sean is on the cover of it. His song Wolves with Post Malone is number 4 on there. And he has 2 other songs on there, Lithuania with Travis Scott and ZTFO. He will accumulate at the very minimum 10 million streams first week when you sum up these 3 songs, and that's lowballing it. Also, don't be surprised if those end up being the songs that chart. There's another playlist though, and that's Get Turned with almost 6 million followers, and Big Sean's song ZTFO is on there too at number 4. He has another song on there, Why Would I Stop? If we go to the United States Top 50 chart for Spotify, which is not chosen, it does have 3.3 million followers, but the entries here are the top 50 most streamed songs in the United States. And there's only one Big Sean song on here at number 22, getting over 500,000 daily plays, and that's the song Wolves with Post Malone. Now, do you really think that song is on here because it's such a hot song that people are actively searching for? And because it has Post Malone featured? Or because it is a song that is highest on Rap Caviar and a bunch of these other playlists? It's because it's being playlisted. And now that it's on the top 50 chart, it'll get even more streams from people that just listen to the chart. Keep in mind, 6ix9ine has not put on any of this stuff. The last time we saw an artist that was as hot as 6ix9ine not be placed on any playlist or hidden on the platform like this was XXXTentacion. Over 2 years ago, in May of 2018, Pitchfork wrote an article titled, Spotify removes R. Kelly and XXXTentacion from its playlist as part of its new hate content and hateful conduct policy. Spotify is removing music by R. Kelly and XXXTentacion from its editorial and algorithmic playlists, Billboard and the New York Times report. The move arrives with the streaming giant's new hate content and hateful conduct policy, which aims to promote openness, diversity, tolerance, and respect. Algorithmic playlists is really the damaging part here because things like Discover Weekly and those other playlists are curated not by an actual person, but by the algorithm. So if you listen to, let's say, only XXXTentacion music exclusively on Spotify, when he releases a new song, he should 100% show up in your Discover playlist. But if this rule were implemented, he would not. This isn't to be confused with editorial playlists like Rap Caviar, for instance, that real people are handpicking or being paid to handpick specific songs. In a statement to Billboard, Spotify said, "We are removing R. Kelly's music from all Spotify-owned and operated playlists and algorithmic recommendations, such as Discover Weekly. His music will still be available on the service, but Spotify will not actively promote it. We don't censor content because of an artist's or creator's behavior, but we want our editorial decisions, what we choose to program, to reflect our values." This is a really important part. Reflect our values, which means your values should be rock solid and can't be shaken, even if you're going to lose out on support or profit. The Times reported that a Spotify representative confirmed that XXXTentacion's music was also being removed from the playlist. His song Sad is no longer on the popular Rap Caviar playlist. Billboard reports that it was there as of yesterday, May 9th. Jonathan Prince, Spotify's VP, head of content and marketplace policy, told Billboard, "When we look at promotion, we look at issues around hateful conduct, where you have an artist or another creator who has done something off-platform that is so particularly out of line with our values, egregious, in a way that it becomes something that we don't want to associate ourselves with," he added. "So we've decided that in some circumstances, we may choose to not work with that artist or their content in the same way, to not program it, to not playlist it, to not do artist marketing campaigns with that artist." The hate content and hateful conduct policy aims to remove content that expressly and principally promotes, advocates, or incites hatred or violence against a group or individual based on characteristics, including race, religion, gender identity, sex, blah, 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 blah. The description continues. At the same time, however, it's important to remember that cultural standards and sensitivities vary widely. That means there will always be content that is acceptable in some circumstances, but is offensive in others, and we will always look at the entire context. In a section that responds to the question, "What about hateful conduct by an artist?" the policy states, "We don't censor content because of an artist's or creator's behavior, but we want our editorial decisions, what we choose to program, to reflect our values. When an artist or creator does something that is especially harmful, blah, blah, blah." I made a video about this, and a lot of people were in an uproar, justifiably so, about this, including myself. But it wasn't until Spotify had the pressure applied to them by none other than Kendrick Lamar and other people in the industry that their values suddenly disappeared when they saw dollars were going to vanish. In their policy update, Spotify said, "Spotify recently shared a new policy around hate content and conduct, and while we believe our intentions were good, the language was too vague. We created confusion and concern and didn't spend enough time getting input from our own team and key partners before sharing new guidelines. It's important to note that our policy had two parts. The first was related to promotional decisions in the rare cases of the most extreme artist controversies, as some have pointed out. This language was vague and left too many elements open to interpretation. We created concern that an allegation might affect artists' chances of landing on a Spotify playlist and negatively impact their future. Some artists even worried that mistakes made in their youth would be used against them. That's not what Spotify is about. We don't aim to play judge and jury. Well, they clearly just did prior to this. We aim to connect artists and fans, and Spotify playlists are a big part of how we do that. Our playlist editors are deeply rooted in their respective cultures, and their decisions focus on what music will positively resonate with their listeners. That can vary greatly from culture to culture and playlist to playlist. Across all genres, our role is not to regulate artists. Therefore, we are moving away from implementing a policy around artist conduct. The second part of our policy addressed hate content. Spotify does not permit content whose principal purpose is to incite hatred against people because of all these things. As we've done before, we will remove the content that violates the standard. We're not talking about offensive, explicit, or vulgar content. We're talking about hate speech. I'm pretty damn sure Lil Durk music and the majority of drill music falls under content whose principal purpose is to incite hatred or violence against a group of people, but they let that rock out even now and will promote the hell out of it. We will continue to seek ways to impact the greater good and further the industry we all care so much about. We believe Spotify has an opportunity to help push the broader music community forward through conversation, collaboration, and action. We're committed to working across the artist and advocacy communities to achieve that. An individual who reached out to them on behalf of Kendrick Lamar and his entire label was Top Dawg. Last week, Bloomberg reported that representatives from multiple acts, including Kendrick Lamar, reached out to Spotify CEO Daniel Ek and head of artist relations Troy Carter and threatened to pull their music if the company kept the policy as it stood. In an interview with Billboard, Anthony Top Dawg Tiffith, CEO of Top Dawg Entertainment, has now confirmed that he threatened to remove music from the service. I reached out to Troy over there. We had a conversation and I expressed how I felt about it, about censorship, how you can't do artists that way, Tiffith told Billboard. I don't think it's right for artists to be censored, especially in our culture. How did they just pick those artists out? How come they didn't pick out any others from any other genres or any other different cultures? There are so many artists that have different things going on, and they could have picked anybody. But it seems to me that they're consistently picking on hip-hop culture. Tiffith also said he told Daniel Ek, my whole thing with them was, we gotta fix this situation, and if it can't be fixed, then there's gonna be a real problem. We're gonna have to start pulling our music from the site. So the pressure was applied, and they fell back. So clearly Spotify has no values, but that is to be expected from a corporation. Top Dawg CEO is also not going to step up for 6ix9ine because he's worried about his money and the way it will make him look within hip-hop. Because the truth is, if he didn't want artists to be censored, especially within hip-hop, then he wouldn't want 6ix9ine to be censored either. But that's not what he wants. He doesn't want rappers he likes not to be censored. If he truly believed that statement, he would do his best to make sure that anybody, including 6ix9ine, wasn't censored. But that would hurt his reputation and his labels within hip-hop, which would in turn hurt his money, which is really the same exact values as Spotify. It's important to try and compare what's currently happening to 6ix9ine in a couple of different ways so you're no longer focused on hating him and focused on what's happening. One easy example is this video. How did you find it to be able to click on it? The majority of you either found it on your homepage or the suggested bar on the side of another video you were already watching. This is the stats of the past 28 days for this channel. 75% of the views to the videos on this channel came from the algorithm. 10.5% came from search, which is people either typing in words relevant to the video or my actual name. And 2.5% are from having the notification bell turned on, which you should subscribe and turn that notification on now if you haven't done so already, so we can get that up. If YouTube tomorrow said they're going to eliminate my channel from homepage and suggested, my views would tank, they would effectively kill my channel. And this is the same thing with streams for artists on these DSPs. Many of their streams come from these playlists and algorithms, and if they were removed, their streams would tank and their listeners would tank. But they're not going to show you which percentage comes from where, like I just showed you right now. Playlisting is the new way after radio to control exactly what the majority of people are going to like and listen to. For the majority of the existence of the music industry, you either needed their distribution or radio play to make it as an artist, nationally at the very least, for people to know who you are. So they were legitimate gatekeepers. The music could be amazing, but you won't have a chance at hearing it if a label didn't want you to. And then the 2000s came, especially with the advent of the internet in a post-Soulja Boy and SoundCloud era. You got the rise of underground rap and indie artists that were able to build fan bases off of real diehard music fans. Not having control over the consumer is the last thing record labels want. So when there was this rise of playlists, they got into it. Rap Caviar used to post a lot of rappers that weren't signed and helped many get their deals. But now, there hasn't been a single unsigned rapper on there for I can't remember how long. And playlists are the new form of radio because there's this entire generation that doesn't care about radio. And you as an industry need to figure out, how are we going to tell people exactly what to like? Because make no mistake about it, that's what they're doing. On Apple Music, you are bombarded with tons of different playlists, all of which are curated, and the majority only signed artists. If you look at any rap-related playlist on Apple Music, they're pretty much identical. All the same damn rappers and all the same damn songs. Spotify does make things a bit easier to discover an artist, but they still have the same thing: playlists. And what are playlists but an illusion of choice? A lot of people just click on a playlist and let it play through. So if the playlist has a ton of followers, there will be songs that the person may not even like. And sure, they might just skip it if it's really that bad, but there are many songs that will accumulate streams just because they're on there. A lot of people will say nowadays that the underground rap scene doesn't really exist anymore. And I'm inclined to agree to an extent. And it's largely because these labels are picking these artists up earlier and earlier so they can sign them for as little as possible. I've also been on both sides of the spectrum. The majority of people discover new artists from these playlists, and we already know most of them are signed already. You might be asking, these people just don't put enough time to really dig to find independent artists. And you're right, but 99% of people aren't music hobbyists or enthusiasts that are going to spend a ton of time trying to find these indie bands and unknown rappers to listen to. It's incredibly time consuming, and I was one of those people many years ago. I can't do that anymore because I have different priorities now, and my time is better spent on other things. There will be times when I need to go somewhere, I hop in the car, and I want to play some music, but I'm not listening to one of these garbage playlists that's basically radio curated by labels, so I end up either listening to nothing at all, or 2 to 3 rappers that I've been listening to my entire life. You make things easier for people when you just tell them, here, we've done all the work for you, and put this collection of songs together. Add to your playlist whatever you like, but it doesn't matter because we as labels own all of it. You're benefiting us no matter what you choose. The reason why I make this point is to tell you guys that if the industry wanted to, they could have made almost any decent song, of which there weren't many, on 6ix9ine's album. Let's just say Locked Up 2, for instance. If the industry supported that and put it on top of all these playlists, it would guarantee a top 10 single. There's the nostalgia factor of a song that was already a hit. Let's be real. How many artists right now are getting hit songs in the top 40s just because they're copying the style of 2000s rap or R&B hits? 6ix9ine is a poppin' artist, and that's just that. Now, for an example of a song that perfectly illustrates the power of playlisting, the single Need It by the Migos featuring NBA Youngboy. I covered this song back in May when I made a video titled The Migos Are Finished. It released on the 22nd of May. In the first week, it debuted on the week ending June 6th. It was number 62 on the charts. The following week of June 13th, the single dropped 14 spots to number 76 on the Hot 100. So clearly it wasn't resonating with people if it isn't rising on the charts and falling this many spots. It went up a couple of spots to 72 on the week of June 20th, and it continued to fall around the 70s with radio and playlisting until it completely fell off the charts on the week of August 29th. Also keep in mind that the music video for this song premiered on August 20th. So if the song was popping more because of the music video, it should not have fell off the charts the week of the 29th. But the week ending September 5th, their song reappeared on the charts at number 69. How is it that a song that clearly didn't go up the charts for 4 months, damn near, is back on the charts? It's on every playlist and getting radio play. And it got back on the charts at a lower position than it debuted. So it would make sense if you said, oh, the music video came out, so it charted higher than ever. But it didn't. It's currently on Rap Caviar, Get Turned. On Apple Music, it's on the Rap Life playlist and others. This song is not hot, but they're trying to artificially make it look hot for such a long period of time that eventually people will buy into it. But that hasn't happened yet. 4 months later, as of me recording this, on the iTunes charts for singles, not overall, just hip hop and rap, it is at number 82, being outsold by 6ix9ine and Akon's Locked Up Part 2, some guy named Tom McDonald with a song called I'm Corny, Coolio's Gangsta Paradise that released back when the Egyptian pyramids were getting made, and many other songs that aren't even on the Hot 100. That was just the hip hop and rap charts on the iTunes store. But if you go into the overall, which is all genres, The Migos song Need It is not even in the top 200 singles on there. How is a song that is number 69 on the Billboard charts Hot 100 in all categories is not even top 200 of the iTunes charts? And these charts on iTunes where people buy the song count for way more than a stream. If you make the argument that they are getting this all from streams and radio, not many people are buying the song, then yes, I agree. But the question becomes, where are the majority of the streams coming from? They are guaranteed not coming from millions of people typing in the Migos and then going to their song, or they would be on the viral charts on Spotify, which they are not. They aren't even on the United States top 50 at the time I'm recording this. So it has to be from these playlists, which shows you the power. These playlists, with likely some radio support for Need It, are powerful enough to keep the song that nobody really cares for on the charts. Sure, some of you may like the song, but be honest here. If a song was actually hot, with a group as big as the Migos, the song should be at its really hottest initially, and then maybe it falls off. But if it's an actual hit, then it would continuously and slowly rise up the charts if it's resonating with people. But it didn't do that for 4 months. It was stagnant in the 70s until it fell off, and now back at number 69, which is pretty much 70. And this is part of what I'm talking about when I said watching this week has been very interesting. 6ix9ine, whether it be intentional or unintentional, has really lifted up the curtain on how much these playlists affect the charts. And a song could not be resonating with people at all, but it'll still be charting just because of the passive streams it accumulates from being on big playlists with tons of followers. Also, we can take it back to the old days of music. All of these playlists are kind of like distribution back in the day. For instance, Jay-Z signed a distribution deal with Priority Records, I believe, back in the day. And these distribution companies made it so that they could sell your albums and have them stocked in record stores nationwide. If Jay-Z was the biggest artist in the world, he would be limited by his location, which is New York and the tri-state area perhaps. So these were necessary to expand, even if they got a percentage for it, because you would make so much more money. Think of 6ix9ine's social media, mainly his Instagram, which he should definitely get on Twitter and be active on there more, because that's where the stan bases are. But his own social media, including the followers he has on Apple Music and Spotify, are his digital storefront. Anybody that is selling a decent amount is not doing it through their stans or even their fans alone, except maybe K-pop. And even if those fans buy pure sales, they're getting on many playlists, getting radio play, doing press, etc., to open them to the casual fans and people who may have never even heard of them. That's where the majority of sales from streaming come from. But they'll never show you these numbers because they need to keep the facade going. There's a lack of consistency when it comes to blackballing. The question is, and always has been, does an artist deserve to be removed from every playlist, new releases, and everything else all other artists are given? If the answer is no, then you should not be happy about 6ix9ine having this happen to him, even if you hate him. But if the answer is yes, then the question is, what makes them deserve to be removed from all of this help that they're getting? Some reasonable answers would be the actions that R. Kelly and XXXTentacion had to face. Allegations, I should say. King Von, Lil Reese, Famous Dex, Michael Jackson, and 6ix9ine before he was arrested, but they chose not to hold that stance. So clearly the only reason left for 6ix9ine is either him snitching or the fact that he made fun of these people that work at these places. And if you think snitching is worse than killing people, as well as both physical and sexual violence committed towards women, you are a sick human being. The making fun of people and antagonizing them brings us into my next point, which I actually understand where they're coming from. In the past 6 months or so, you've likely heard statements like, we should hold X group of people to a higher standard because of the position they are in society. As in, they should not act the same way as regular humans because of their job. And the fact is, you can't have standards for other people, only expectations. Standards are for yourself. Expectations is what you have for other people. And if you have high expectations for other people, you are thinking wrong, because you will always be disappointed. I expect all humans to behave and react the same, regardless of if they're a regular individual on the street to the president, because we're all the same species at the end of the day, the same stimuli. Not only allowing this to happen, but also champion this happening is to 6ix9ine is only opening the door for this to happen to many other artists in the future. And when it happens to your favorite artist, you can't be upset if you were complicit in cheering on 6ix9ine being blackballed. But if you're having the expectations of people in high positions to not be childish and easily offended, but able to do their job, then you would not support them blackballing 6ix9ine from these playlists. Like him or not, he's a hot artist and has bigger songs blackballed than some of the people on these playlists, the great majority of people on these playlists. And if they did their job objectively without emotions involved, then they would put him on there. But they do have their emotions involved, and I can't blame them at all. I expected it, and I can't feel bad for 6ix9ine for the way he handled the situation, because I think he expected these people to play fair and do their job. He had a high expectation of them, which was a mistake. 6ix9ine fumbled his entire release. Gooba was a great move, but he should have just released his album the first day. There's absolutely nothing you can do now to get more than 2 million people on your IG Live other than getting shot, being in the ICU, and making a full recovery. With that to the side though, he should have taken the angle of not antagonizing all of these people that were actively blackballing him, because it made it difficult for the average listener and fan to support him as the underdog. The way 6ix9ine has been acting, first of all, when he got number one with Nicki Minaj, he decided to at all of these people that run the playlists, as well as radio. This was unnecessary and got them even more angry at him, unlikely to ever put him on there for the foreseeable future. And why? It's one thing to beef and clown other rappers. The higher-ups love that because it makes all of them money. But when you start calling out people that are just working corporate jobs, then you're going to another level where even normal listeners that don't care for any rapper are looking at you like, man, really? You're not getting any clout for calling out Carl Sherry or whoever else. And these are powerful, well-connected people. Not like Lil Durk, who couldn't blackball anyone if he tried. 6ix9ine also came back with the same energy he had before getting locked up. I understand the sentiments he had. He was facing 47 years and was making a list of all these rappers and people that were clowning or insulting him while he was locked up, while he was telling and snitching, etc. So when he got out, he wanted to get at them, but he could have got at them with the finesse. 6ix9ine's release was a reset button for him. Think about it. When 6ix9ine was released, it was the best opportunity for him to really take the high road, but he still could have made Gooba poking fun at himself and other people. But at the same time, on live or even a separate song, saying something along the lines of, I know it's been a lot of rappers that have talked down on me, and people are trying to make sure I don't win, but I'm just trying to put out the best music for the fans. I forgive those people. If you were in my shoes and had to face 47 or tell on people who turned their back on you in every way possible, screwed your baby mother, putting your mother in danger and fear for her life, kidnapping me and having intentions of killing me, would you lay down your entire life for them? The majority of people in the world would be on his side, and they were on his side. But when you start doing things like disrespecting Lil Durk's cousin, who, if we're being fair, he wasn't some sort of saint, but still, Lil Durk and all these rappers that came at you never said anything about your family, from what I've seen. So you're elevating the level of disrespect. And this is when the casual person starts looking at you and saying, yeah, man, I understand the whole telling part, but you coming out here and doing this is way too much. And it shows us that 6ix9ine has learned absolutely nothing from being locked up all that time in jail. If he's out and still acting the same way, antagonizing people, but instead of having Treyway behind him, he has an upgraded team of security. There's a way to prove you can go wherever you want without dissing people that the majority also love. He could have continued milking being the underdog, and he still is the underdog if we're being real, when you're blackballed this hard. But to be an underdog and get a lot of support, you also need to be liked. And 6ix9ine is making it very difficult for people who aren't stans of him to like him based on his actions. One good move he's made, however, is going on these alternative promotional runs, like doing a video with a popular YouTube channel and group called Nelk, as well as the Logan Paul Impulsive podcast, and even the Shade Room interview. Which was funny to me that people tried to make fun of him for doing this, and this is the level of elitism that hip-hop fans have that has been bizarre to me since the beginning. Logan Paul's platform is bigger than the majority of hip-hop media outlets, so I was surprised to see individuals like Adam22 making fun of him for going on that, because Impulsive podcast is bigger than No Jumper, that's for sure. And this audience he's exposing himself to is the kind that doesn't give a damn about no snitching. They're pretty reasonable human beings, and they don't glorify the streets as something that should be held with the utmost respect, like it's some damn scripture. If 6ix9ine can get on Joe Rogan, that would even be crazier. But he's showing love to people who like his music and never really got shown love from the rap world because they think they're too cool. And don't get it twisted. These YouTubers are making more money than 99% of rappers. I can promise you that. Also, if you check out the comments from the podcast he did with Logan Paul, there are tons of comments who said they've had their opinion of 6ix9ine change and they actually like him and think he's a cool guy after that interview. So interviews are helping his image a bit, and it also shows that the way that media has been portraying him to these individuals that don't really follow him or know what he's up to other than clips here and there is different from the way he actually is. And to be fair, he doesn't do a very good example of portraying on social media the way he is behind the character. That only comes out in interviews. This is also an interesting thing if you watch this week's sales and people's behaviors, because if people dislike someone, they'll distort their perception of reality in whichever way to make that person look bad. When 6ix9ine first came out and he had 2 million viewers on IG Live, he had crazy views and streams on Gooba, etc. All the people that hated him were saying he faked views and faked sales for Gooba to go number 3 on the Hot 100 and for Trolls to go number 1. As absurd as that is, because platforms like YouTube and Spotify that have to pay out based on views are going to know if the biggest song in video on their platform that week was buying fake views. They would look into it, and it wouldn't skate by like a much smaller video, for instance, that only faked maybe 1 million. But you just got to give that to them. Okay, let's operate under their perception of reality that 6ix9ine buys views. Now that his album is set to flop, his views on IG Live aren't what they once were when he was released, and the attention from casual fans and people who just checked out for the hype has dissipated. They're talking about his numbers going down and how much the album is selling. So if you thought that he was faking streams and numbers, then why wouldn't he be faking his numbers right now when everyone is looking at whether or not he's going to flop? It would be the perfect time to actually do so. Clearly, he never faked his numbers. But those people are not going to go back and admit that, retracting their statement, because the cognitive dissonance is way too powerful in their head. How could 6ix9ine recover is the real question here. And if I had to draw up a plan, the first order of business is to stop going to a level of disrespect that makes people want to kill you or hate you. Playful disrespect is good enough, and that means stay away from dead people. There's also people saying he won't be able to afford security if he's selling 40 or 50,000, and this is either ignorance or another instance of people hypnotized with hatred, in the words of Boosie. He's still getting the money from the 160,000 plus albums that were sold with the merchandise bundles. They just aren't counting towards Billboard. Being hated is not a problem if you have support from the industry, but when you're being blackballed, you cannot afford to get more hate. 6ix9ine gets a lot of attention for being a brilliant quote-unquote marketer, which is half true and half false. I made a very detailed video in my 48 Laws series titled How 6ix9ine Started His Own Circus. It'll be in the top right cards of your screen and linked in the description, but in that video I compare his ability to draw attention to that of P.T. Barnum, the showman behind the circus Barnum and Bailey. But there's a distinction to be made here. Barnum's product was his circus. People paid tickets to see the freak show, and all the attention he generated was for something crazy that made people want to go see the show. The attention grabbing directly benefited P.T. Barnum's product. 6ix9ine's product is his music. If people are not consuming his music, buying his merchandise, and buying tickets to his shows, which are currently not a thing, then he's not going to be making money. These things are only adjacent to the attention grabbing stunts he does. He's not getting paid for going to O Block, for going to Nipsey Hussle's mural, all of these other things, but he is hoping that all the attention gets him at least some listeners to his music. But if you are a musician, you need people to like you. And if you are making undeniably good music, they will definitely like you, even if it's in private and they don't tell anyone else. But 6ix9ine is currently not doing that. A hated personality is very valuable, and what 6ix9ine is doing would be crazy beneficial for him if he was a media personality, a radio host, a YouTuber, live streamer, or a podcaster. And I've even said that if it's all said and done and 6ix9ine's music career gets to the point where he's on Smoke Perp level, he'll have a huge platform for podcasting, because that is where trash talking and clowning people shines the most. And there is something called hate watchers, which is people who genuinely hate you, but they just can't stop watching and talking about you. Howard Stern was one of the greatest examples of this. And even today, years later, he made $90 million last year to make himself number 8 on the highest paid celebrities, getting paid more than LeBron James. And look at the Kardashians. They were TV personalities, and you thought everyone hated them in their show. It had awful reviews, but people were tuning in. Same for publications like TMZ and the National Enquirer. They profit from the hate. It is not the same for music artists. This is where 6ix9ine has a hard decision to make. He apparently has had songs with a bunch of really popular rappers and artists. One in particular is Anuel, who was supposed to be on the Yaya song, but saw he was getting hate and went to an interview throwing 6ix9ine under the bus entirely, then apologizing to him profusely for an hour, apparently. 6ix9ine could go scorched earth like Daenerys Targaryen did and leak all of the music with these artists that worked with him, but didn't want to release the music to show how much the snitching thing really means to people in the industry, which is not much. They just care the perception that people will have of them. But I don't think that's the greatest idea. One thing that I think is holding 6ix9ine back is his perception that he needs a viral moment to go with every music release. And that's led him to focusing way more on the attention grabbing than his music. It's gotten to the point where a lot of media outlets aren't even reporting on what he does anymore unless he keeps upping the ante and level of disrespect, which is not good for him. But it's a good opportunity to switch things up and build his fan base similar to how NBA YoungBoy did, or even a Kevin Gates. If there's anything this first week should teach 6ix9ine, it's that he genuinely has a really strong core fan base, which is something I didn't even believe until I saw it. To sell 33,000 pure album sales without any merch bundles being counted is something that 99% of rappers are incapable of doing. 6ix9ine is known for his music videos and singles. All he has to do is bounce back and make some fire and keep dropping consistently. Also, get that Spanish album out the way and dip the hell out of that label that is doing nothing for you but collecting a check. There's no reason for 6ix9ine not to be independent right now. All a label is really worth is the push to radio play and playlisting, which he's basically banned from. And if the head of your label is the son of the owner of UMG, can't do a single thing, not even saying that he'll remove his own label 10K Artist Music from streaming, they don't deserve to keep making money from you if they're not willing to go bat for you. The thing is, if 6ix9ine could get the same outpour of support and people threatening to pull their music from platforms like Apple Music and Spotify, it would force these curators to put 6ix9ine on, because then the people highest in the food chain at both of those companies who have no connection to the industry will tell them, yo, you're going to put this nigga on these playlists or you'll be out of a job. And they'll have to comply. Just like they did with XXXTentacion, who was on curated playlists even after his passing years ago. If possible, 6ix9ine should try, if he can, to pull up to the offices of these places and mend the relationships behind the scenes with these people, because there's no such thing as succeeding at the level 6ix9ine wants to succeed and do it all on your own. He's got to swallow his pride. He don't got to get on his knees and start sucking dick, but just tell those people that he was out of line when he was calling them out and his fans were attacking them on social media, and he hopes he can repair those relationships. I think remaining the person that does everything in their power to be hated by everyone is not a sustainable long-term plan. It's much better to at least try and show you learned your lesson, even if it's in private conversations and behind the scenes, than continue to crash and burn. That, mixed with consistently releasing music that you're known for and not the overly auto-tuned garbage that we saw of on this recent album, will definitely have him growing his actual fan base that rock with him and his music. Because currently there are a lot of people paying attention to 6ix9ine that could care less about his musical releases. Do you guys think the treatment of 6ix9ine by Billboard and all these digital streaming platforms is fair or not? Let me know in the comments. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Peace.